Hello Internet, welcome back to the World of Zero Arcade. In this video, we are going to be focusing on getting pointers working with our map. So last video, we kind of got the UI set up. This is going to be a really quick video, hopefully. If it's not, I'm not doing things right. But what we want is we want to be able to actually drop a marker onto this map and actually signal relatively where you are. It doesn't need to be precise. You can drop yourself in the ocean if you want. We're not really going to check. We don't really care. It's just a way so that people that are using the game can kind of indicate relatively-ish where they are. So hopefully it'll go really quick. I don't imagine we'll have too many issues with this. But you never know. Things don't always go smoothly when I'm making it. So I'm going to actually quit playing. I kind of gave it this holographic style texture, so it's like a blue emission, and then it goes. I added some bloom and some of the other Unity effects to kind of get that effect. So for now, I think the best idea is probably a cube or a cylinder. I think a cylinder makes the most sense. So we're going to use we're going to call it a map marker. We're going to use a cylinder for it because why not? And I'm actually going to store it like this. So this way, our map marker is at 0, 0, everything's in there, but our actual marker, this way we can actually orient things, we can resize it without actually changing the scale of everything inside of it. So if we start adding things, like I'm planning on adding a light, it kind of makes it a little bit more convenient. So we're going to want this relatively small-ish. I don't know how small, but smaller than this. So let's start with like 0.1. That actually looks alright. It takes up like half a state and is bigger than some countries. So I think we can work with that. And it will obviously, it's going to scale based on this because we're actually going to end up parenting it here. So I think that's actually close to good. I'm going to add a light on here. So we just find a light, do that. And we're going to start off by just making it red. No idea if that's going to help. I do have to turn the intensity up on the lights just because the texture is emissive, so to be able to see it at all, you have to kind of turn that up. Just because we're working in such high color ranges. We could actually probably fix that. Hold on. I bet if I go in here, switch this to a... That's not going to work. We want to change our color path. Project settings, let's go to the player. Right now we're using gamma lighting. If we switch to linear lighting, yeah, is that better? I don't think that's better. It would help out with the lighter tones, but as you can see, it helped out a little too much. Now we have got red bleeding out into the ocean, which maybe we want that. And apparently linear color space isn't supported by WebGL. Didn't know that, but we're getting an error for that because we are planning on shipping to WebGL. So we need to figure out if we want that or not. I'm going to vote no for now. I'll play with that some more. It's not a super big decision and we can change it. Project's open source, so if you want it different, go for it. What do we want? What else do we need? Let's add a material here. And so we're just going to have a marker material. And maybe I've been kind of thinking other customization, like favorite color, for example. This would obviously align to that. I'm just going to make it red for now. Assign it to the marker, and you get something sort of like that. It's going to be very red, not going to really bleed all that much. and it doesn't bloom out because it's straight red, which means it doesn't have any detail in the other color spaces. So as we move this up, it's going to get more and more white. And we also support high definition or high dynamic range, so we can actually really crank this up if we want. And you can see it looks terrible because this is way too bright. But with bloom, you get a lot more, the color kind of spreads out a bit, and you actually get sort of a glow around it. So something like this works really well for like lightsabers. If you need a lightsaber, works out quite well for that. And also lasers. If you ever need to shoot a laser, does that pretty well too. Not sure if it works for us, because I can't see that. So we may have to avoid that for now, at least. So I think that's probably good. It's red and it glows. That's all I needed. So don't really care about smoothness. All those other things we can come back to later. So I'm going to save a prefab of this in our UI. And then I'll delete the one from our scene. We don't need that anymore. Next, we are going to do a map marker. Map player location. Sure. So the idea here is you click the map with, it's going to be probably left mouse button, and it's going to drop one of those markers down. We only ever want there to be one, because it doesn't make sense for somebody to be in multiple locations. And so that way, if they click and it's already down, it will just relocate instead of doing anything else fancy. So how it does that, we'll have to figure out. So we're going to need a few things here. Ooh, those are all sorts of wrong. Let's do a game object, and we're going to store the prefab. So this is going to be our marker prefab. And Visual Studio is loading, so that's going to show up when it shows up. There we go. Cool. I'm also going to store an instantiated version of the marker. Not market, marker. There we go. And so this is actually it. Once we've created it, I want to store that instance here and actually keep track of it. For now, we'll probably actually just destroy it. And that way, animations and things become a lot easier because we can just play them on load or on create, and it's all controlled by the marker. And we're not super concerned about performance or anything here. There's not too much going on. So we've got our instantiated marker. That should be null initially. So we need a physics insert. We already have that, so I'm just going to copy from our previous video. We have this input.get mouse button down. If it's a 0, then it will drop. So if you left click, it's going to drop it on the screen at your mouse position, but only if you hit whatever this is attached to. So this is also going to have to be attached to our sphere. But we're going to actually write a function for this now. So let's instantiate marker at, and then we're just going to pass in the hit object, and we'll use that later. We'll pull this out. The hit is going to come out later, and we'll just use the variables we need, probably just a point. But for now, I want the whole thing so I can figure out what I need. So let's instantiate a new marker prefab, and then we can position it and rotate it. We can actually do that here. So let's grab our hit point, and this should get us the point where we hit. And then we can do a hit dot normal. And so this is going to be the normal angle. It's going to be the outward face of whatever. So if you hit a table, it's going to be up and so forth. So that should get us the angle we want, or the direction we want our thing to point. Problem is it's as a vector. So we actually need to quaternion and do a look because we want it to look forward down this normal angle. We don't particularly care about the upwards angle. That isn't really particularly relevant to what we're doing. So I'm just going to leave that blank. But in most cases you'd use it, we don't need it. So, and then I'm just going to save our instantiated variable there. Next, well, actually before, if our instantiated marker is not null, then we want to destroy our instantiated marker. And this will destroy the previous one, and then we'll just create a new one. Not the most efficient way of doing that. It'd actually be better to just move the one we already have. We're going to recreate the entire thing. And the reason we're going to do that is because if we do sort of like a mecanim animation for when it's created, we can re-get that animation without having to write a bunch of fancy scripts to get it to work. So it gets us a few things and we lose a few things. I think the advantages are better than the disadvantage, at least in this case. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. Then we just set our instantiated marker to our instantiated, and that just ensures that it gets cleaned up afterwards. So if I'm correct, that should be everything we actually had to do. So I'm gonna jump back here and drop our map player location there. Oops. Grab our map marker and attach it as the prefab, and then get started. And so I can place it. It's not oriented correctly and it's not attached. So there's a few things we need to do still. One of them is going to be to take the instantiated object, take its transform, and set the parent equal to whatever we're attached to's parent. So it will be attached to whatever the script is attached to, which should be good. And then the rotation we can actually solve in our prefab. Oops, I was clicking the wrong thing. So you can see now as we grab it, we can rotate it, which is what we want. So I can click up there, rotate things around, and it sticks where it's supposed to. The light is at 0, 0, 0, so you actually won't see that yet. We're gonna get there. So I'm actually gonna throw in a new marker, and then let's modify that. So we'll rotate it so it's on the Z-axis, which should be the forward. So we were rotating it, our forward axis, to align with the normal, and so because of that, it's going to be angled along the Z-axis. So this should get it to point directly out of our object. And since it's a cylinder, we can actually make it a little bit taller. And that should just help it stand out a little bit more. And then I'm going to move our light up just a bit. And that way it should actually be above our map. So I'm looking down the Z-axis. This would be down our normal Z-axis. So if I'm thinking about this correctly, that would be the part that's sticking out. We'll know if we don't see a light. I got it backwards. So I'm actually going to disable that and then start. You should be able to click. And it looks like there's a light. Yep. So now we have a marker sticking out wherever we put it. We can kind of move it around, kind of sticks out, looks all cool, and it's not too hard to miss. I don't know if there's a red-blue color blindness. We'd have to check. If there is, this probably is going to be awful. But for now, we have a marker. And honestly, I think that's probably good enough. The next thing, we've got plenty of time. I was talking about how we were going to do like a mecanim animation. Let's actually do that. So I'm going to do a map and then a marker. And then we're actually going to move our map marker down there just so it's actually sorted. So as we expand this, it doesn't all get gross. So what I want to do is add 1 or 2 animations, and then we're going to use, we could like script this and actually do it that way. I don't really want to do that because there's a bunch of there's cooler stuff you can do in mecanim than you can do with other stuff. So once I stop talking and actually figure out what I'm doing, there we go, map marker animation. So down here, we've got our mecanim, we've got our entry point and our exit. We're never going to use the exit, I don't think. So what we want is just a super simple animation, nothing exceedingly fancy. So I'm going to create one animation, which is just going to be map marker the entrance of it. So this will play right when it starts, and then it will exit at the end. And we can either have it actually exit, or I can kick it into another state if we want like some sort of passive animation going on. Like maybe we want the light to slowly fade in and out. We can do that, and actually I kind of like that idea. So let's add another one. We'll do a map marker idle, and that'll just be the idle animation after it's been added. So there we go. That's our animation. Looks super simple. It's because it is. And yeah, that should be it. The only other thing, I want to make this loop. So we just toggle looping. Just double click it and make it loop. This one we definitely don't want. We don't want our entrance to loop. But that should be it. So what we need to do now is go over here and have our animation. In order to actually edit animations, you need to have the object selected, which I've done, but I haven't added our animator to it. So now that I have, I should see it. There we go. Just had to switch tabs. So once you have an object with an animator attached to it, it will display all of the animations in that animator, and then you can modify those. So we've got our entrance and our idle, and we've got a full object to play with. So for our entrance, let's do sort of like a swoop for the light. So for the light, we'll grab that and change its intensity. So this will be over 1 second. Do we want it over a second? Maybe not. We can shrink that down half a second. Sure. So it's going to start at 0 and then go up to, go up to 5. But in the middle here, I'm going to add another keyframe and set it to like 10, 8. 8's the maximum. I forgot that. So it's going to end up looking, well, that's not very helpful. It's going to look something like that for our actual light. And so hopefully I'm kind of looking like it draws the attention. And then we're also going to fly our marker actually into wherever it is. So it's going to kind of impale itself. So to do that, remember everything is local. So if we modify this transform, it's a local position. And so all we need to do is move it along its z-axis, and then everything should be fine. So we've got z here. We can start at -5, and I think actually if we just go to 0, it should smooth out and sort of impale itself. We can actually preview this. So we've got, there's the default. So it'll look something like that, which is the wrong way actually, because it'll be facing out. So we want positive values here. So 5, there we go. And that should cause it to slam into the ground. Do we want it to kind of grow or no? We'll play with this for now. I think that's fine. So I'm going to stop that, turn off recording, because otherwise I make a bunch of changes that I don't intend to, and it always happens anyway. So we've got that. I'm going to apply this, go back to our animator, and I believe we need a exit time of 0.5. So it will play, and then it will exit out to the idle animation after it finishes. I think that makes sense. And then if I set the transition to 0, does any of this make sense? It's been a while since I've worked with mechanisms, so bear with me. I'm probably screwing everything up. It's fine, we can fix it. I'm going to disable the map marker, start this. Now, so what we would expect is if I click, we'll do that, kind of stab in, like so. It is very sudden, which makes me think our animation is being cut too fast. So let's fix that. This is clearly wrong. So how do we make this not bad? That should fix it. So transition duration of 0 with an exit time of 1. Okay. There we go. Boink, boink. And so we can kind of drop it onto our planet. And you can see the light flare up as it comes down and then fade back just a little bit, which kind of helps highlight where it's aiming for. So I kind of like that effect actually. It does go a little bit too far in, and it's too close to our player. So you can't really tell that it's zooming in. You can from the tops and bottoms, like you can kind of tell that it's coming in, but if I just do it here, it looks less good. I don't know how we want to fix that. So the problem is we have an orthographic view, which means if it's in line, if it's parallel with the camera, there's nothing we can really do there. Nothing that I'm aware of, at least. Yeah, let's see. Just as a test, I'm going to kick this up to 100. That's a mistake. But we're going to do it anyway. And we will see what's going on. Why is it saying I'm recording something? Okay, it's gone. When the play buttons are red, it means you've got the record function on, which I didn't think I did. Okay, so now it's more of like an orbital strike. Might be a little bit too slow now. But on the other hand, it kind of looks like it's zooming out and you're kind of like launching something from space and hitting the planet, which I kind of like. And the red, for the most part, it stands out. We can actually, let's see if there's just another color that works. White? No, not white. Gold? We can do sort of a gold color. How's that look? You kind of lose it. It doesn't really have the contrast that we need. Like, you can't really see that. But I mean, everybody knows about the orange and blue contrast thing, so I figured I'd give it a shot. What else can we try? Blue? I think blue is a mistake. Green is probably also not so good. Purple's all right. I don't know. Well, like I said, maybe if you get a personal color or something, we can work that in somehow. Don't really know how it's all gonna work out. We'll have to figure it out. But for now, I think this is actually in a fairly good spot. We've got a way to select what it is, and since we keep track of this item, we're able to actually get back where that is. So we can actually, from this, we should be able to derive that position, which I think is good. It means we can actually use this instead of just having it. So I think that's it for now. In the next video, what are we going to do? Probably, I think the goal is to start using some networking stuff, start getting this talking to some other service, and then actually get controls sent to that other service. So as you hold down like left, it will send left to the other service. If we get that working, we can actually start integrating this into our game, and then hopefully do an actual real world test and actually see if this whole thing is going to come together. I think that's going to be really exciting and really fun. But I also don't have any idea if it's going to work, so we'll find out. So that's it for now. If you've got anything you want to see done, let me know. I'm always looking for really interesting, new, fun things to do. Even if you think it's kind of weird or random, let me know. Can't hurt. So, till next time, see you, Internet.